In my opinion, that one little thing that could be just a little bit frightening about Germany and Germans is there ain't that many Germany-related things that I can bring up that can make people who don't live here start to question things. It's not even the worst thing that I can bring up when people ask me if there's anything that they should know about living in Germany. I mean, some of my answers could be way worse than what I'm about to talk about. For instance, due to the history, people might ask about racism, or depending on where they're coming from or where they live currently, they may ask about the job market. How easy is it to find a job? They might even ask about food and some of the differences in it, or currency exchange rates, because that could matter to them depending on where they're coming from. But I personally think that there's one thing that they'd probably be like, what? If I was to answer the question of what should they be on the lookout for, or what should they be aware of or ready for prior to coming to Germany, or during the time they're here. And it's not necessarily something that would deter people from wanting to live here, but I do think it's something to keep an eye out for. Now, bear in mind that there are subjective positives and negatives, and in this video, I'm gonna go back and forths with the goods and the bad. You won't always agree with the goods, you won't always agree with the bad. And that's how it'll be in almost any video you watch. I'm just pointing out something that I personally have noticed. Let's get to it. First, let me preface this by reminding y'all that I'm from the States, so people coming from other cultures and other countries may not see this as much as I do, but my take is coming from the perspective of someone that's from the US, first of all. I generally love the German society. I love the way they do things. I love the lifestyle. If I didn't, I wouldn't be living here. There are so many things, by comparison, me living in the States so long, that just work in a different way so much that just sometimes it makes doing things a little bit easier, just because it's so different than what I've always done, and I'm just always open to trying new things. And consistency, thoroughness, dedication, all of that is important to them, and you can tell by the product and the end result of whatever they're doing, whether it be work or other things. And for the most part, I should say that most Germans, or I should say German friends that I have and know, are open to my version of things and my take on it and my way of doing stuff. And it's welcoming that most of them are willing to hear me as well. Some have even liked and picked up on the way that I like and do things, which is pretty cool, I must say. So I can already tell that people are waiting for me to bring up the fact that they ride their rules so tightly, or their insane addiction to breads, which can get quite crazy at times. I mean, they got so many breads here and they just eat them all the time, but that ain't it. The one thing that I would say is just a tad bit frightening about the Germans is their persistence. Hear me out. Seriously, ever since I've arrived here, I've experienced something that speaks to this. I just hadn't put it together in my head yet until recently. And the reason I say that the German persistence can be a little bit frightening is because sometimes it can move from being persistent to being just a little bit pushy. Sometimes a little bit too pushy. But like one of the things I mentioned earlier, consistency is like one of the things they pride themselves on, which is why I didn't want to say that their persistence could be good or bad, because it's just going to depend on who you're talking to and what situation that person is referring to. So before I do give a good example, let me just give an example of how this persistence can sometimes get on my nerves. As all of you should know by now, I use public transportation here in Germany, and it's great. And often I use public transportation to go retrieve my daughters. Well, in my current situation, I don't own a yearly or monthly transportation card, so I pretty much just pay for a ticket to use the transportation when I need it. On the days that I go retrieve my daughters, I get what they call a family ticket. It's a daily ticket that's good for families of 2 adults and like 4 kids or something like that, something along that nature. Whatever it is, I can't remember right now, but I fall into the qualifications. Well, I have this odd situation where my youngest daughter is taller than my oldest daughter, but my oldest daughter looks way older than she even is. So whenever I go to board the bus to get to the train, I show my ticket to the driver and they always give me the craziest looks. And sometimes they'll ask me, hey, how old is she? And I'll tell them. And the age she is falls within those requirements of the ticket. While some drivers give me the as if they don't think she's the age I said she is because she looks much older, other drivers will actually go the distance and ask for identification or ask me to prove her age. Some have even not even asked for proof of age, but is trying to make me pay for her because in their mind, they're convinced that she's the age they think she is, based off the way she looks. So the fact that I faced this more than once is the only reason I'm using this as an example. I know Germans love their rules and all that stuff, and I know some people are out there breaking them and being idiots. Like at this point, I've seen and met most of the drivers. They should know me by now. They shouldn't still be asking this question. And I feel like they're consistently asking not only because they want to follow the rules, but they just want me to trip up someday and say something different than what I've told them in the past. So when I get some of them asking me like, are you sure? Or questioning me or side-eyeing me or giving me any kind of doubt against what I'm saying, against what I'm telling them, that's when I'm like, come on guys. I mean, seriously, like it's really worth it to me to put my girls in the middle of a lawful mess to save a couple bucks? And that's what I want them to consider sometimes. Like, I'm a father. Why would I be out here trying to scheme a couple bucks? Like I said, I get it. I know there's knuckleheads and idiots out there doing it. But number one, don't automatically assume that I'm that. Number two, you've seen me multiple times. If you've seen my operation, there's no need to be persistent and asking me the age of my daughters and if I'm sure of it. I mean, come on, there's no need to be pushy about that. Let that go. Let that go. And obviously I can make other examples that aren't so pleasant, things that make me go, I know what the rules are, but there's something that's more important right now, so we kind of need to adjust a little bit, but I'm not going to go into any more. One of the good ways that this consistency and persistence seems to pay off is how I see in my neighborhood. So no matter what, I can always count on my neighbors to be outside, taking care of their lawns, taking care of their fronts, getting all of the weeds out of the cracks of the cement, even sweeping up old leaves and dust and flower petals and stuff off the ground. Whereas I personally would ignore stuff like that. I don't now because my front would be the only front with it if I did, but flower petals and like a few crunchy leaves and stuff, I usually ignore stuff like that. Like if it's not large trash, which you probably won't even see such a thing, especially in the kind of neighborhood I live in. But if it's not large and unsightly or anything like that, I'll just leave it. Like flower petals, I just wait for the wind to take those away. They'll be out there sweeping and brushing and cleaning up their front to the best of their ability consistently all the time. Now I am keeping in mind that depending on how densely populated the area is, the more or less likely you are to see this dedication to cleanliness. Sometimes I feel kind of bad because I'm just in the house in a robe, chilling, recording videos, and they're outside sweeping their walks. And it's not just with recycles, as you can hear this lady's doing back here. It's with almost everything that's regular trash, recycles, and just like random stuff you would find like on the street. Just stuff people throw away, cigarette butts, you know, stuff like that. But it does make me feel good to know that I have these kinds of neighbors, this type of neighborhood that is willing to keep up the maintenance of the neighborhood. I can always count on that. I never have to worry about if this place will go to shit. Like one of the neighborhoods that I used to live in, you'd never see it. You never see it. So there are ways that their persistence pays off. And I hope somebody didn't go crazy in the comments already before they had a chance to watch the full video and see the full explanation. This ain't a big thing to sweat. It ain't nothing to be offended over. Just something that I've noticed. So just know that I do appreciate it more than I don't. And if you're German, maybe you can talk about it in the comments on if any other Germans kind of bother you or aggravate you with being a little bit too persistent, a little bit too pushy. I'm glad I didn't call this stubbornness like I started to.